how to make some coffee filter long stem roses and rosebuds. And this video is really a sequel to my other video where I made coffee filter roses and hydrangeas. And there was such a great response and so many people that really enjoyed it that you inspired me to make this video and just add on these long stem roses and the little rosebuds. So there you go. You inspire me, I inspire you. It's a beautiful relationship. So today, basically for starting, you're going to need some coffee filters. You're going to need some food coloring, some water, some paper towel. You will need some floral wire, and you can get this at the dollar store, and some floral tape, which is a wax coated green tape for your stems. That too you can find at the dollar store. A little paintbrush, a couple of long skewers or toothpicks for stirring, some very thin gauged wire. Again, I bought this at the dollar store, and this is we're going to use to make the leaves. Some really nice cutting scissors and a pen. And for additional tools which make things very handy is wire snippers and some needle nose pliers. And this is, it's not essential, but it makes life a lot easier. Now, in the first video, I made these roses, which I have here. And they look beautiful, but really, I wanted just to add a little bit more interest to my bouquet. So I started off making these long stem roses because really I just wanted to add a variety of sizes of roses just to make the bouquet more interesting. And that was really the beginning of doing these long stem roses and rosebuds. So I'm just going to show you. So just by adding those additional long stem roses to the bouquet, it creates variation, and I think it makes them even more beautiful. And the other thing that you can use besides just having them as long stem roses, like I've got here, and that looks fantastic, is that I've used a mixture of the long stem roses and the large roses in a very short bouquet. And this is just dry floral foam that I've got in a little jar, and created a short bouquet which is beautiful for the center of your table because it's short. You can see people on the other side. So the first thing that we are going to do, or the first thing that I'm going to show you, which may be a repeat for some people, but in any event, it's a good refresher, is you're going to dye your coffee filters. And you're dyeing it basically in water and food coloring. So we're going to try and you want to dye about 4 sheets at a time. And the reason that you want to dye about 4 or 5 sheets, no big deal. The reason you want to do 4 or 5 sheets at a time is you want to make sure that the color goes all the way through. But when you go to dry them, which we are going to dry these on a cookie sheet at 225 degrees for 15 minutes, they will dry perfectly that way. If you layer too many, it'll take longer to dry, that's all. But it's not the end of the world. So something that I've noticed, which makes the flowers even more realistic, is having a darker tone in the center of the rose. So in this example, I used a darker color of the same pink for the center and then lighter colors. And the way to set your colors for your roses, we want to add some water. You want tons. Because it dilutes the color, and then you have to use a lot of food coloring. So let's say, for instance, I want to make I want to make an old-fashioned pink. So I'm just going to put a drop of the yellow and a drop of red. And actually, I'm going to just take my drop just by using my skewer. The red is powerful. and it will change the color quite quickly. Okay, so that looks a little bit too yellow, and I want it a little bit pinker. So just touch the tip. Okay, so that seems to have darkened it a bit. And really, the variation is going to come. I mean, you can make this darker, but you're going to do whatever you want to do. Oh, gloves is a good idea. I think everybody has gloves these days. Gloves is a good idea because the food coloring will stay with you for a couple of days. So basically you just want to just immerse your sheets in water. And then I've got this very pale, it's almost like an old-fashioned pink. Just going to put it on my cookie sheet. And of course, if you want to change the color, you can just add a little bit more, a little bit less. I'm going to put the full drop of red to see what that imparts. That's very, very bright. This is the time that you want to play. What is this? Ew. That's very dark. I am curious to see what that looks like though. Very nice. So that little bit, I added a little bit of brown, and you see how it's deepened the color. So basically, you're gonna have to play with your little, you know, your colors, because I certainly can't show you every single color, but essentially, this is what I wanted to get, a darker and a lighter. Now, if I like this color, for instance, but I thought, uh-oh, it's too dark, then all I do is just add a little bit of water to dilute it. So I can add a little bit of water and try it out with one coffee filter at a time. Let's see. Let's see if that's lighter than the last one. I suspect it will be. So I like this color, and you can see the variation. So I'm going to take my coffee filters. Now, you're going to, for one long stem rose, you're going to want one filter that is dark in color, so your darker center. And then you're going to want two filters for the petals on the outside. So it only takes 2-3 petals for each rose. But if you're making a bunch of roses, then yeah, you want to just make a whole bunch of coffee filters. You can always use them in another project at any time. So I'm just going to make a few more. Now, one thing that was really interesting was that, so I got this, I've got this rose, which it goes from darker to light. So the tips of the petals are darker, then it becomes a two-tone rose. If you can see that, I've done one in the pink, I've done one in the yellow. So these are two tones. And in order to get those tones, you're going to dye your coffee filters. You're going to get your coffee filters, 4 coffee filters or 2 coffee filters, whatever. And these are the coffee filters that you've previously dyed, and they're dried. And then just fold it onto itself and create a little funnel like this. And then you're going to dip this into a concentrated color of, in this case, I did the yellow. With the pink, I did a darker red, but I'll show you. You see how it's absorbing the color? So then when you open it up, you're going to get the color in the middle. Now this isn't concentrated enough, and if it's not, concentrated enough for you. So this is like a drop of the yellow, and I'm just going to add a little bit of water to it, and then you just want to just very loosely add some color to the center and dry this again. As it dries, it spreads and you get this. And the reason that you want that is because when we cut the petals, all the tips of the petals, as in this case, will have the darker color and then fade into the lighter color of the coffee filter that you originally dyed. So those are the 2 tips on dyeing. Use whatever colors you like. Make extra filters in case your rose doesn't turn out the first time around. So you've got extras. Now when it comes to your leaves, which I've got some here and they're dried, you're going to have your patterns cut out, but you're going to cut them out of some coffee filters that you've previously dyed in a green. The green turns out to be very, very light. So what you're going to do is you're going to take these filters, you're going to cut out your pattern, just like I have here, and then you are going to make a small concentrated amount of the green that you like, and yellow, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red, a little bit of green, gives you a very nice olive color, which are the color of these leaves. And if you don't add the red, then you can get a very bright green color like this. So it's really green here, but I've got yellow and blue, which is going to make green. And you can see, look at that. It's a very, very dark green, but I want it a little bit, I want it actually a little bit more yellowish. It's too bluish. So I'm going to just add a touch of orange. Yes, that's a beautiful color. So this is very concentrated, and you're just going to want to add like half a teaspoon of water at a time. Oops, I think that was a teaspoon. Okay, so a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of water at a time until you get a color that you like. But you want to make sure you don't add too much water because you're painting this directly onto the leaves. So I've got my leaves here, and I've previously dyed the coffee filters, and you want to do 2 leaves at a time, because if you do more than 2 leaves, and you want to do both sides, if you do more than 2 leaves at a time, the paint will not go all the way through. So you're just going to take your leaves and you're going to go through and you're going to paint this concentrated green on both sides of the leaves to make sure it's saturated all the way through. And then you're going to put this in the oven at 225 degrees. Now, if you're doing all leaves, you've only got 2 little layers of leaves, so you want to maybe check it after 5 minutes because there isn't much paper there to dry. Just keep an eye on it between 5-10 minutes at 225, and then you'll get your dry leaves, which I will show you how to assemble in the next step. So here we are, and we're just getting ready to start. And we are going to start off by making the Rosebud, and we're going to make 2 sizes of the Rosebud. And the reason I'm making 2 sizes is the larger rosebuds that I was making are more in scale with the roses that I made from the first video. The smaller rosebuds, which are these ones, they're slightly smaller, they're going to be in a separate vase for just the long stem roses. So it's the exact same process, but I'm just going to show you how to make one slightly bigger than the other so that you have the option to do either or. So now we've got all our equipment, everything ready to go. We're going to start off with two coffee filters, and this is the Rosebud, so you can certainly do it any color that you like, but I'm going to do I'm going to use 2 filters that are of the same color. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold them in half. And then one of them I'm going to fold over just a little pleat like this, about 1/4 of an inch. And the second one, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to fold it over 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to fold it over twice. So I folded that over twice. You can see the 2 folds. And we're going to set these off to the side. Now, to start our rosebud, if we're going to make the small rosebud, we're basically going to take some paper towel and scrunch it up into a little ball, and we're going to put it on our stem. So this is the little ball that I started off with for the small rose, and this one is a larger one. So basically the center, I'm making one smaller than the other, if you can see the difference in size. So to make this little ball, we're going to need 1 piece of paper towel and our floral wire. And then we're going to take, this is where the needle nose come in handy, is we're going to take our needle nose and we're going to turn it at the end and just make a little loop like this. And this little loop is just going to help adhere to the little ball that we're going to make. So we're going to use 1 whole paper towel, and we're just going to fold it in to itself to create our center. And we want it to be slightly egg shape, or yeah, slightly egg shape. So the shape of the a rosebud. So I've basically just squeezed it like this. And then I'm just going to open it up and add some glue in here, in here, in here, and then along the center. And I'm going to put my hook in there, and then I'm just going to twist it and glue it in place. There you go. And that's it. So that's the center of our rosebud that we're starting. Now with the, we're going to take our first piece that we folded over twice, so it's got these 2 little folds. And then we're going to take it and we're going to just cut off about, I guess, 1/4 of it. So we're just going to cut the end off, and we're going to end up with 2 pieces like this. And then we're just going to take the small piece and we're going to use it to wrap the bud so it's the same color as the petals are going to be. And I usually just take the paper and form it without the glue, just so you've got a bit of a shape to start off with, and then just open it up and glue it to our bud. So that's not too difficult. So we're just gluing it down and squishing it. And then we always want to squish it on the bottom so that you're getting a bud going like this. No big deal, just something simple like that. Now with this other piece that we have left over, we're going to create like a little funnel. So we want to create a little funnel that, and you can just insert your finger and create this little funnel like this. And we're going to fit our bud into the little funnel. And you want it to be about that tight and this big. So now that we've got it, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just glue the side so as not to lose the little curl. And then as it's open on the bottom this way, I'm just going to go in with dabs of glue and just squish it together and turn it in the same direction. See how the seam is going this way? Just turn it in the same direction, and then you get that swirl effect. Now you could leave it like this as a little tiny bud, but I think it's nice that we're going to create a funnel. But this funnel, we're going to take our piece of paper, and there's our fold, and we're just going to put it in the opposite direction and fold it in the opposite direction, just exposing some of that tip, and you see it creates another little layer to our bud. And then I just turn it, creating this shape, and then I open it up, and that's when I add the glue on the inside the little flower, and you just pop your glue in, turn it, until it's glued. So now you've got your little rosebud. You see the shape? Now from here, we're going to add our little outside leaves, or stem leaves, like we've got here. So they're like this. And we're going to add the stem leaves so that it's going to cover a little bit of the stem, but not all the way around, because we're going to add 2 more to create 5. So this is 3. So it's like this. And then you just want to add glue here, and just tack it into place, leaving a space for the other 2 petals that we're going to add, or 1 petal, but I like 5. It's an odd number. So I just took that, and you slice off 2, and then we're just going to add these 2 to the stem at the bottom, like so. There we go. Glue. And we're going to come in and we're going to pinch it into place so that all the leaves are covering the little bud, like so. And to the leaves, you just want to fold them, and it just makes it look a little bit more realistic. Just fold the little leaves right down the middle, gives them a little definition. And then the tip, you want to, and I've got a little bowl of water here. You want to keep your fingers moist, and you're just going to give it a little twist and create this little tip that is pointy. And it kind of holds the shape of the little petals, but also makes it look a little bit more realistic as in life. And then at this point, what I do is I take a look at the bud, and I'm going to tack my little petals all the way around the way that I would like them. And I just tack them just halfway through on the rose. 1 little dot, that's all it takes. 1 little dot. And then that way I can kind of position them in a way that I want to see the petals covered. This little guy is a little too far over, as you can see. but that's okay. We'll just tack it down over a little. And there we go. So these are all tacked down. You can curl them out a little bit or leave them closed, however you like. And then at this point, we're just going to take our tape, and this is Floral Tape, which is waxy. It's waxy and it has a little stretch. And we're just going to start at the very top of the bottom of the flower. And you want to get it, you want to give it a good tug to start it so that it's pretty tight. And then you're just going to, you want to keep your stems, the straighter your stems, the easier it's going to be. And then you're just going to pull and turn. So I'm twisting and I'm pulling the tape at the same time, and the wax actually creates, well, it's a little bit sticky and it adheres to the wire. Now I've got, that doesn't look so good. There's a little gap here, and I could just take a little extra piece like this, and I'm gonna add it to here to cover up that little gap because I don't like it. So it's very versatile, the tape. You see? So now you've got this covered wire. I already know that my rosebud is too long, so I'm just going to just nip it off the bottom. I don't want it that long. So that's the bud, which I think looks really beautiful. Now we're not finished with the bud because we're still going to add leaves to it. So I'm going to show you how to make the leaves. Now for the leaves, you're going to need about 6 inches of this thin gauged wire, which I got at the dollar store. And you're gonna need 2 little wires. So 1 6-inch wire, 2. So you got these 2 little wires. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of my floral tape, you know, a little piece, another little piece. Difficult to start because the wire is so thin, but you want to just pinch it and get that started. And then you're just going to cover, not even the whole wire, just the middle of the wire. Like that. You just want enough. This is the part that's going to be showing once the flower is done. So we'll do that to the 2 little pieces of wire. See, the leaves I was working on have come off on my hands. So then you've got these 2 little pieces of wire that have metal on the ends. And then you're going to take the 2 little pieces of wire and you're going to make a cross. And you're going to have a short piece, a long piece, and a long piece. And then you're going to take the 2 long pieces, twist them together 2 times, and then you get this pattern, which is the way the leaves are on a rose. So now that we've got our little cross, we're going to take 6 petals. 6 petals. 2, 4, 6. And I really like doing a light and a dark color. It looks very interesting on the leaves where one side is light and the other side is dark. But you do whatever you like. So I've got 6 petals, 3 pairs. And then I'm going to take a pair And it doesn't matter, I've made so many leaves, they actually, I've lost the pairs so they don't match up, but that's okay because we can trim it afterwards. And then I'm just gonna fold it in half and then just do like a little accordion like this. And it just gives it a little bit of a more natural look. And then you just open up your little petals. And we're going to put a bead of glue all the way down the middle of the petal. And then we're going to take one of our little sticks. We're going to put it right in the middle of the petal. And then we are going to sandwich our wire between the two petals. So you see the petal now becomes flexible and movable. But the sides are not glued. So we're going to follow the outline and glue the two petals together. So I'll glue the center and I'll do the outline at the same time. So then it looks like this. And you've got the little tail on the bottom. So when you're drawing out these leaves, I guess I forgot to show you, you're going to need 1 coffee filter. So you've got your coffee filter like this, and you're going to fold it once, fold it twice, fold it 3 times, and you're going to draw out your leaf with the little tail like that. And that little tail is this little tail, which we're going to twist and glue onto the stem, and it's going to make the leaf pucker. But before we do that, so our leaves don't match up. So all you have to do is I'm going to just come back in and I'm going to trim the leaves so that they are a perfect match. I'm going to take a little bit of that stem. So now they're a perfect match. And then this little tail, I'm going to glue together right there. And then I'm going to add a little bit on the top. I'm going to pucker the leaf. And then I'm just going to twist the little stem. Oops, it needs a little bit more. You're always better off using less glue than too much glue because it gets very hot and it will burn your hands. So you see, when you twist it, you get a little pucker, and now you can twist that leaf however you want. So now let's do the other two. We're going to do the same thing. We've got our leaves, fold, create a crease, accordion, fold, just to give it a little shape, veining. Open up your leaves, fold down one side, and then we're going to put a bead of glue from the top all the way down to the bottom. We're going to insert our wire and sandwich it between the two leaves. And the leaves don't match up again, but before I cut them, I'm just going to fold the leaf over like so, put a bead of glue on the outline, sandwich it together. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Open up the leaf, put a little bead of glue by just following the outline, glue it together so it's like this. And now they're not matching up that great, so we're just going to come in and take your scissors and just trim it so that they match. And then you get a perfect leaf. And then we've got that little tail that's left over is loose. Just gonna put a bead of glue in between it and then a little bit of glue on the top. And we're just going to pinch it so that you've got this little pucker. And then we're gonna just turn it around and glue it right into the branch. So it just becomes part of the little branch. Then our last one, a little bit. And it's nice that you're cutting each leaf, because then each leaf becomes a little bit different, which I think helps and make it more interesting. Already done. So that's the basic shape that we want. And so now we've got our rosebud. You'll probably end up with a whole bunch of these little glue hairs or whatever, but okay. And you want to put it, well, you can put it wherever you like, but you want to keep it like fairly close to the top, because when you insert your roses into the vase, as I have here, it's a fuller look in your vase. So I think that's tall enough. And then you just add you're gonna add your two pieces of wire together. You can twist it around just so that it holds in place, like so. Then you want a little piece of tape. Just about that much. If you see the curtains moving, that's my dog Chester looking outside. I think he's trying to tell me something. And then you're just going to add the tape over the two wires. And then that's it. There you go. That is your rosebud. That's a small rosebud. So we can add that to our vase. And you see how quite effective it becomes. And it's just like a, you know, a different size of rose. Now for the larger rosebud, we're actually going to do the exact same thing, except that we're just going to use a little bit more. We're going to use 3 filters instead of 2, and we're going to make our base a little bit bigger. So I'm going to grab the larger rosebud. We're going to need 1.5 pieces of your paper towel. And that just takes it up one size up. So 1.5, scrunch it up, create your ball. But also keeping in mind that you want to create this rosebud shape, or an oval shape to start off with. So like so. And just funneling it down so you've got a little tail that you can add this wire to. So we're starting off with a slightly larger center. And then 3, you can use 3 or 2. The rosebud's going to be larger because you've made the center larger. So we're going to start off like we did before. We're going to fold our coffee filter in half, then create this little 1/4 inch fold, create another 1/4 inch fold like that. You're going to cut off about 1/4 of it because we need this to wrap our bud in so that you can't see the color. And if you just wrap it like this, and then add your glue. I find it makes it a lot easier, and just add glue to the inside. Basically, you just want to cover it so it's the same color. And then you're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a little funnel hole, like so. You see? Like that. A very small hole. And you will also want to make sure that it is upright with the flower. So you want to make sure that it's up like this. So now I've got my first little wrap. There we go. So now you've got this, it's all nicely glued. And we're gonna do the same thing that we did with the smaller rose, but this time we're gonna still create the same funnel. And we're gonna fold it in half, and this time we're just going to fold it back onto itself once. Then you're going to create your little funnel just to start it off with your finger. You want it to be opposite, right? So that you've got this swirling effect. And make sure that as you're gluing, you are funneling the bottom, or you want to narrow the bottom so that it blends nicely into your wire. That's 2. And you could leave it like that if you like the size, but I'll show you the difference in size right now. It's already larger because we've started with the larger center. And it will be more to scale of the other flowers, but I'm going to do a third petal, or a third petal. So we're going to do the same thing, fold it back once, and then we want to create a fold on the opposite side. So we're creating another funnel. This time it's a little bit wider in the same direction as your swirl, and then hold it in place. And then of course open this up and start gluing. There we go. Okay, so this is our rosebud, and you can definitely see that it is larger in size than this rosebud. And then we're going to do the exact same thing as we did with the small rosebud. We're going to grab some leaves, this at the bottom, and kind of try and blend it into the stem. It'll make it look nicer, and finish off this part. Now, this doesn't seem to be lining up as well, so actually, you know what? I'm gonna take these two, because you want it to make it look symmetrical. There's a little gap there, so I'm going to just glue one here. I'm gonna glue another petal. So I can glue these petals very close to this bud, so it looks like like a whole bud. Or I can do what I was doing before and crimp and push them out so that they're slightly open. Just create a little crease in the middle. And then we're gonna dip our fingers in a little bit of water and just twirl these little guys at the end. Look at them. So they just have a little spike. Adorable, no? And I am gonna tack these onto the side. Look how beautiful that is. Very nice. And then you want to get a good grip on it to start. And sometimes, if I'm having a hard time, there goes the ghost again. He's getting restless. Whoops. Hold on. And then I'm gonna do the same thing I did before to get this shape. And then I'm gonna take my 2 leaves and add it on. And then I'm going to come in and I'm gonna add this maybe a little bit further down, large, and our small. So you can see the size difference between the two. And like I said, the only reason I'm making the larger one is because I think it's more in scale with the roses that I made, maybe you made in the previous video. But nevertheless, it looks beautiful with large buds and small buds. So next we are going to make our actual rose. And it's the exact same method as I just showed you. It's the same method for a larger or smaller bud. And it's the same thing for the rose. So we're gonna make a smaller rose, which is going to be this size. And we are also going to make a larger rose, which is going to be this size. So I don't know if you can tell one is larger than the other, but it is. So, and they're made exactly the same way. It's just, you're gonna start off with one core, which is larger than the other. So we're gonna start off making our small rose, and we're gonna use our paper towel, one piece of paper towel, adhered to our floral wire. And from here, I'll put this away. So I think you'll see less activity with the curtains now that Doggy has been walked. So getting back to our small rose, long stem rose. So we basically scrunched up one paper towel and turned it into this little oval shape. And then we're gonna take 2 coffee filters. And I'm gonna use the ones that I've got the deeper color in the middle, and you'll see how that works. And we're gonna fold it over once, and then we're gonna fold it over again. And then we're gonna fold it over again. We're going to get 16 petals all together. And then all we're going to do is we're going to separate all the petals by cutting down the middle, straight through. So now we've got all our separate petals. And this is actually going to be the top of our petal, and this is going to be the bottom of our petal. And then I want you just to take half of the bunch. So we've got half of the bunch, and we're going to create a pleat so that our petal becomes cupped. And you see how the little pleat is on an angle. That basically is giving us the shape for our long stem rose. So then we're going to take the other half. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to make a pleat. It's like a little V, and all the petals are cupped. So now we're just going to separate all the little petals. And then we're going to put a dab of glue on the inside and on the outside in order to glue that together. So just a dot on the inside of that pleat, a dot on the other side of the pleat, and we press it together, and it's this little cup. Do this to all the petals except for 2. So 2 of the petals are going to go towards covering the center of the rose, which is the paper towel. And the other petals, which is going to leave us with 14 petals, we're going to use around that little bud. Okay, so we've got all our little cupped petals here, and now we've got these two flat triangles. And we're just gonna add some glue to the triangle, and we're gonna cover the center with one. And cover it with the second petal. We're going to take our petal, which is cupped, and we're going to just insert it. So we want the petal or the point to be that far above. And so we're gonna hold it like this. We're gonna add glue here, and we're gonna add glue here, and we're gonna fold the petal around itself. So we've got this. And we're going to do that with 3 petals. So we're gonna work in 3. So I'm going to overlap slightly, do the same thing, come in with a bit of glue, wrap it around itself. Now we've got that. And then I'm going to take the 3rd petal and wrap it around there. Add some glue. And then just glue it onto itself like this. So we've got this. And we're going to continue going all the way around. And I find it easier to place my petal. So I look for the gap, in this case it's here. I place my petal on top, making sure the points are slightly lined up. And then I turn it over in place and then glue it. And I just find that it's easier to get it all the petals will work more evenly. So here's my next gap. I know it's going to look good here. Petals are all the same. I turn it around and glue it in place. And try squeezing the end so it doesn't bulk up too much. Whoops. And take a look at your flower and just see where there's a petal missing. That looks good there. Turn it around. Add your bit of glue. You want the shape to be consistent. So there's you want the shape to be consistent, and you want all the petal lengths to be equal. So just keeping that in mind. So then you end up with something like this. We're going to add our stem leaves. And this is a larger flower, so we're definitely going to need 5 of these. So 3, and then I cut off 2 extra. And I forgot to mention, but we are making our stem leaves, and we're going to get 4 stem leaves out of 1 coffee filter, which we're going to dye this green. And we're going to fold it once, and we're going to fold it over again. And then we're going to draw this simple design. Draw our outline, which is this design. And we're gonna cut it out. So we're gonna get 4 stem leaves per filter. So depending on how many flowers you're making, I just make a whole bunch and then I can use them as I go along. So we're going to add for our other 2 leaves, which we're going to attach. And again, it seems to, yeah. I'm going to cut them and I'm going to attach them one by one because I think I can get a better orientation on the flowers and make them a little bit spaced out better around the flower. So I've got a little bit of a gap here and I'm going to add my final one here. So then we've got this. And just as we did with our rosebud, we want to just take each one of our stem leaves and just crease it down the middle, little fold. And then the ends, dip our finger in a little bit of water and just twirl it, little leaf, and tack it in place halfway. So then it looks like this. And now, just measure out a strip around the base of the rose. And we're going to turn it. And we're going to turn, we're going to pull with the left and twirl with the right. Pull and twirl, pull and twirl. Now we have this. And now comes the magic. So I'm going to I'm going to demonstrate on a petal. So all we're going to do, we're going to start from the outside. We've got all these loose petals. We're going to start from the outside and we're going to, and pretend this is an outside petal, we're going to just make our fingers moist and we're going to twirl the tip. And we're going to roll it up just like you would like roll up the rim on a coffee filter or roll up the rim on a cup. And you can see the effect that that twirling has. You can twirl both sides. You can untwirl it as well. But see how that creates a petal that's very, very realistic. So I'm going to start off with the outside petals. It works better if your hands are damp. And I'm going to twirl. And the very outer petals, I'm actually going to try and twirl all the way down the side. So I'm going to twirl the top and I'm going to twirl the side. And then I'm going to move on to the next petal. And I'm going to twirl that down, move on to the next petal, and I'm going to twirl it off to the side. You don't have to twirl it, directly down, which you can, but it makes it more interesting if you roll it up and alternate, roll up one side. Then on the next petal, roll it up in the opposite direction. And keep doing that all the way around. And this really turns these petals into very realistic rose petals. You see how it's turning out? You do have to get those fingers damp. And there you go. There's a single rose. Now this rose, I didn't add the little twirl in the middle, so it creates a different effect. And let me show you when you add that in the middle. My other petals here, I'll do a yellow. And I've got my starter, and I'm going to take a petal and I'm going to cover it. So I've covered up with a petal. Now I've covered it with 2 petals. And now to create a funnel effect, I'm going to take another filter, coffee filter. I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to fold it over a quarter, just like we did with our Rosebud. So you've got a 1/4 inch little fold. And I'm going to create my funnel. So I've got my funnel, and I'm going to fit my Rosebud into that. We're going to do the same thing as we did with the other rose. We're going to take our petal, we're going to put it over it, and we want our petal to be longer. And then we're going to glue it. I'm going to take the next petal, slightly overlap, turn it over, and place. There we go. So it looks like this. And it's longer than our little cone that we made. So now we're going to do the same thing as we did with the other flowers. We're going to take our 3 leaves, glue it a little bit further down so that it's going to cover the base of this flower. So now that stem is covered. Then we're going to do the same thing. Wet our fingers, working from the outside in. And I always start rolling down the sides of the first outer petals so that you've got this effect. And I will alternate sides. How much you dampen your hands, you can't seem to get a hold of it, and that's, I think, the dye, the food coloring, so it's time to wash your hands with soap and come back. That's much better. I'll have a better grip. Moisten your fingers. So there you go. So you've got a rose that just by rolling back the petals, you're now creating another texture, and you've got that little funnel inside. So it creates a little bit of a different shape. So here's the rose with the funnel in the middle, which took the extra filter. Here's the rose without the funnel in the middle. So it makes them slightly different. Have a variety of shaped roses. It makes it more interesting in your vase for certain. And I know that the curling of the leaves may take a little bit of practice, but it really, really gives it such a realistic look. Now the finale is, of course, just adding the leaves to it. Rose that we can add to our bouquet. Now that was the small rose, and for the large rose, it's the exact same thing as we did for the small rose, but the only difference is that in the small rose we actually folded. We had 4 folds. In the large rose, 3 folds. So your petal for the large rose is going to be larger. I'll show you 3 filters, and you're only going to fold it over twice. So you can see the difference in size. of the two. I didn't end up using all of the 18 petals. It just made too thick of a rose. I did end up having 3 petals left over, and I thought that was a great size, but basically you are going through the exact same steps to make a larger rose. You're just using larger petals. So that's the video on how to make these long stem roses. I think they turned out amazingly beautiful. Look at that. I feel like I'm at the florist with all these flowers. It's fantastic that you can make all this out of coffee filters. It's really amazing. Plus it's a fun project to work on. If you wanted to make the roses look even more realistic, I would add some filler like baby's breath or some greenery. And one last tip that I found works really well, I use an air freshener on my roses. Just a light mist. I've got some, actually some beautiful tea rose air mist or air freshener that you can lightly mist the roses, and the coffee filter actually retains the scent for quite some time. So you can have the beautiful fragrance of the roses in the room and the beautiful roses to look at. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for all the people who watched my last video on the making roses and hydrangeas, and all the people who have subscribed. That tells me that you are enjoying what I'm doing and you'd like to see more. I've got lots of ideas. So I hope you try these roses, and if you like them, I hope you share them. Enjoy!